G'day everyone, welcome to another edition of Chris Rankin's Music Crush. It's been a few little while since I've made a video, so I thought I'd just come on and show what I've been listening to. One new edition today, a local edition. A guy that I know reasonably well, online at least, mentioned that he had two copies of an LP. And he knew I wanted one of them, so he got accidentally sent out two copies of one that he ordered. So he messaged me and said, "You come over to my place, you can have it for free." So I went and visited him, and yeah, sure enough. So I'm absolutely thrilled, over the moon. So very much thanks to Craig. Lives in another part of Perth, so I just drove over and picked it up. So that was very, very, very cool indeed. So that's with the new edition that I show. Mostly metal. One blues rock, folk rock album, another sort of sludge metal noise rock album I'm going to show, and a hard rock one. But we'll get into it. First of all, some shout outs. I really like to do this. I think it's good when anyone sort of shouts out your channel, so I always make sure I try and shout out ones I watch and love and enjoy. So firstly, Liam, the Death Doom Metalhead. I've become reasonably good friends online with him, and I always watch his channel. It shows a lot of great sort of death metal. Death Doom is his specialty, but a lot of death metal. He's been getting into some black metal lately, he's been saying, but always shows some really top stuff. And he's actually in a Death Doom band in England called Consecration, a very good band, so if you happen to check them out. He's from Norwich, England as well, so that's the Death Doom Metalhead. I like to read these properly so that I write just the YouTube channels down, just make sure if you're searching it up, you get the right name. Been watching a lot of, again, JC, the Flipside vinyl community with JC. Been watching a fair bit of him as well. Really great channel, really professionally done. Always enjoy his channel and him showing the new stuff. Vinyl Richie, of course. Always a staple of my watching. He's got such an amazing collection, really good for punk rock, good for prog, just all sorts of stuff, and really funny guy, always really entertaining watching his videos. Marty Worm, I love really watching Marty's channel. He has a lot of very similar tastes to me, and loves the really sort of underground, lesser known metal bands, especially the death metal, black metal, but also power metal and traditional heavy metal, speed metal, a little bit of everything. He's part of the band The Glorious Dead, Into the Lifeless Shrine. Was an album they put out last year, if you wanted to check him out. Of course, Scott Waters, everyone knows Scott Waters, No Life Till Metal. Always love his channel, always watch to see what he's unpacking and showing, and just such a great range of metal, but really good for the traditional heavy metal and thrash and speed metal and heavy metal and all that. So, and also Fozzie Vinylmania. I've been watching his channel, so giving a shout out to him. A really good channel, shows quite a lot of metal as well. Just a really nice guy, good guy. So look, I'll put the links to all these channels in the description. And also, just want a bit of a shout out to, would you believe, we've got a festival, a heavy metal festival coming up soon in Perth. There's been a few lately. We had the Perth Rocks Festival just last week, or last Saturday actually, and coming up on the 27th of March, we've got Slayfest, which has become a bit of an annual event, but of course it got put off in March last year when everything was just turning sour. Such a massive lineup. For those of you who are local or in the area, it's in Fremantle, only $40 a ticket, all sorts of bands. I'm not going to go through them all, there's a lot. What I might do actually in the next few weeks, I might show week by week some albums from the bands that are going to be in the festival, but some that those who've been watching my channel, certainly international, might know is Silent Night will be one of the bands, Crypt Crawler, Tempest Rising, 9 Foot Super Soldier, Remission, Kimura, All This Filth, Death Dependent, The Führer, Louis Rando, who I've been showing a fair bit of the Shrapnel album on, and Bloodlust. His black metal band, The Fuhrer, will be playing. You've got Plague, you've got Infected. I know I'm forgetting some, but what I'll do is, as I say, every now and then on a video I'll show an album from one of the bands that'll be on that list, just for you to get to know those bands from if you're at other parts of the world. But yeah, there's some shout outs. So look, we'll get started on what I've been listening to. And first up, I will show the one that I got. And it's a band from Denmark called Altar of Oblivion. Look at that, how good's that? This is their debut album. Traditional doom metal. Ron Haggerty, I'm pretty sure you would like this, or any guys that like doom, traditional doom. Really good band. This is their debut, and I'm pretty sure, I think they've had 2 albums after this one that have come out. Something like that. This is 2009. Yeah, 2009. 2009. This is on Shadow Kingdom Records. Fantastic album. I love this. So this is the one. I was talking about this band on Facebook, and he messaged me and says, "Hey, yeah, I've got 2 copies of the debut that was sent to me by mistake. Would you like one?" And I said, "How much you want?" He said, "Free. Just all you got to do is drive over and get it." So I did. I drove from my place over to the other side of Perth and picked it up. So big shout out to Craig. Very much appreciate it. Love it. It's a double album too. Double LP. Now I have to be careful opening this. I'm trying not to put the records in this one. It's one of those double LP sleeves where everything feels a bit tight. So you get the nice inner, and it's weird. It's like plastic. It doesn't actually feel like paper, and I was going to say it's transparent, but not really. It feels like it should be, but it's not. But as you can see, it's not. You can hear it. It's kind of paper, but it's very glossy and almost feels like plastic. So there's a lot that goes into this LP, I noticed today. So I think I'm going to store this in the sleeve, in the plastic sleeve, with the records not actually in the double sleeve itself, because they feel very tight going in, which I don't really like. I don't really like the force. There's the label. Shadow Kingdom Records. Yeah, so good. I'll be listening to a lot more of this. I know their 3rd album very, very well, which the name escapes me right now, of course, because I'm filming, but it's got a yellow cover, which is their 3rd album. So good. So yeah, I'll show you the back. Altar of Oblivion. Yeah, and as you see, there's the gatefold right there, and yeah, it's a double LP. So yeah, but as I say, I'm going to store everything not in the sleeve. Just seems a little bit too tight. Next, this is never far away. This album is never ever far away from the rotation and the CD player, or however I'm playing my CDs at the time. I quite often play my CDs through the PS3. I have the PS3 set up through the sound system, and I always find the CDs come out with such a good sound quality when I run it through the PS3 as opposed to a CD player or something. And I'm talking about the band 1914. They're a band from Ukraine. This is their most recent album, 2018. This finished very high on my top 100 list of 2018. Think of all the main extreme subgenres of metal, and this band pretty much blends all of them. So it's death metal, a bit of black metal, a bit of death doom metal, and a little bit of melodic death metal as well, but mainly death metal and black metal. And just an absolutely fantastic album, man. I mean, really, you look at that album cover, that's what you're getting. It's as simple as that. They did have one album that came before this. I think it was about 2014. But this album just blew me away. 2018, and I still play it very consistently. An absolutely top class album all the way. Love it to bits. Ukraine. Oh, they're really, they put out a lot of good bands, the Ukraine. Druk is just one of the best atmospheric black metal bands on the planet, and I know I'm saying that wrong. I always say it wrong. I think it's Druf or Drut. Either way, I think you all know who I'm talking about. Just a fantastic band. Lots of great bands from Ukraine. All the others are, of course, escaping me again. It's funny how when you turn the camera on, you forget things. But anyway, next up, I've been listening to this again. An album that finished in my top 5 albums of 2020. I put this up in my very first video that I ever did when I was showing some of my faves of 2020. If you are interested in my top 100 albums of 2020, you can go back and look at my very first video, or if you ever want to know, just let me know in the comments and I will post it. So yeah, Cult Burial. It's a self-titled album. They're from London, England. Death metal, pretty much straight up death metal, but there's a real sort of nasty, grimy, heavy feel about it. Having said that though, there is a lot of hooks in this album, and it's actually, considering how heavy it is and how sort of menacing and deep sounding it is, it's got a very awesome sort of full, warm death metal sound. I know that sounds weird, but I think you know what it means. It feels like it's sort of wrapping itself around you, and you feel completely immersed in its sound. Fantastic album. Moribund is a brilliant song. Chaos is a brilliant song. Really quite, considering how oppressively heavy it is, and really sort of classic chunky death metal sound. It really is quite catchy also. Pretty sure that's just a custom label there with a band on it. Just an absolutely outstanding album. I love this album very, very, very much. And as I say, it finished in my top 5. I think it might have even been 6. It was either 6th or 5th, I forget now. But that's Cult Burial. Fantastic album that I just keep coming back to. And it just shows, guys and girls, keep looking for those small underground bands. Well, I shouldn't say small, but you know what I mean. Bands that don't have their name up in big lights, but are every bit as fantastic as the bands that are up in lights and do have a big name and sell out arenas. Bands like Cult Burial are every bit as good, and that album I just keep coming back to over and over again. So, as I say, I always try and show an Australian band on a video, and this is certainly one of my favourite Australian bands. They're a thrash band from Melbourne, Victoria. Some of you in the VC that know me well know this band. Aaron the Metal Theologian, one of Harlot's records was included in your Australia extravaganza VCLT that I sent to you, but this is actually, this one I don't think is available on record at all. This is their debut. This is 2013, and this is actually my favourite Harlot album. They've released quite a few since. I think they're up to about their 5th album now. There's one that's just come out this year. Yeah, that's right. There's one that's just been released this year, and I've had a bit of a run through, but not much. Yeah, not much at all. In fact, I'm just thinking. So I need to get onto that, because that's one of the new release albums that I haven't heard much of at all. So there's Harlot from Melbourne, Victoria. Fantastic band, really good live. Seen them now. I've seen them definitely twice, but I've got a feeling I may have seen them the 3rd time. The first time I got to see them live was at a festival, a small festival, or a small local festival in Perth called Armageddon, and they were one of the bands on that. And was it Armageddon or was it Murderfest? Well, I can't remember now. I'm thinking that they might not have been Armageddon because that's mostly doom bands and this is a thrash band. They might have been Murderfest. But it was 2015, I do remember that. The vocalist up the front is Andrew Hudson, one of the most charismatic frontmen I've seen. He's really good. He has very good banter and repertoire with the crowd and some really quite funny sort of humour. Yeah, he's really, really good. But just such a great album. The title track's really good. Origin, Effortless Struggle. What do you got? Export Life, Kill, Infernal Massacre, Regression, Virus, Ultraviolence. Just top to bottom. All fantastic thrash. Really, really good thrash. Just, yeah. If you haven't heard of them, check them out. Harlot from Melbourne, Victoria. Such a good band. Love them. Right, band from Indonesia. Now, I will try and say this. This is a very long and quite hard word to say, but I'll read it straight off the bat. Plasmoptisis. Plasmoptisis. There's the cover there. When was this? 2010. Breeds of the Malevolence is the title. Look at that artwork there. Pretty easy for you to work out what sort of metal this is, but anyway, it's brutal death metal for sure. Of course, it comes from the metal city in Indonesia, Bandung of Jawa Barat. Bandung, I've said it a few times, definitely the metal city, just an incredible place that lives and breathes heavy metal. As far as I'm aware, I'm pretty sure this is their only album. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure this is their only album. Such a brilliant, brutal death metal album that Indonesia just does so well. There's so many great bands from there that just churn out fantastic death metal album after death metal album, especially the really brutal stuff. So there we go. Great album. Absolutely great album. If you are looking for them, they actually changed their name a few times. They were originally called Arisay, and then after that they changed their name to Mannequin, and then they changed their name to Plasmoptisis. So there we go. Now, I've seen this album being shown around a lot lately on the VC because there's been quite a major fanfare over its reissue on vinyl. Now, I'm showing this because I actually bought this on CD when it first came out, and there was only, as far as I remember, there was only a European LP version of this. It was pretty much most regions of the world only released on CD, and I'm talking about this Stomp 442. So I bought this pretty much not long after it came out on CD. This is my favourite Anthrax album. Yes, it is. I know some of you might just be shocked that I'm saying that, but I love John Bush. And I love this album. It's a little bit different sounding to Anthrax, but it's heavy and groovy and catchy. Random Acts of Senseless Violence is one of my favourite songs of all time. Not just an Anthrax, one of my absolute favourite metal songs of all time. I love it. It's just so catchy, so good. And I remember it may have been about, there was a period in the 2000s where, it would have been the mid-2000s, where I looked it up for some reason, and it was actually deleted. They actually deleted this from their catalogue for a while, which therefore made this album, this CD, the original that I've got here, actually quite valuable, really quite valuable. And then all of a sudden it came back into the catalogue, and then you started seeing some CD reissues, and of course now you've got the vinyl reissue that's just come out. But yeah, there's my original CD pressing of Stomp 442, my favourite Anthrax album. I absolutely love this album so much. 1995 is that album too, if you weren't quite sure of that. I did show the label of Cold Burial. I was just thinking I didn't there for a sec. Brought out this album again, Accuser, German thrash, 1989. This is the second album after Conviction. Conviction I love and I want dearly. That's a very high on my list of grails for sure. Accuser's album, speaking of albums that finished quite high on my top 100 albums of last year, Accuser's latest album, their self-titled album, that finished reasonably high. I think it was like 25 or 26 maybe, something like that. May have even finished a bit higher. It was probably my second favourite thrash album last year after Onslaught's Generation Antichrist, to be honest. And that was maybe a little bit biased because Onslaught are my favourite thrash band, but back to this album, fantastic. I got this last year. This was a reissue by the wonderful No Remorse Records. No Remorse, High Roller, Flogger, all those wonderful labels. Just so good to get all these records from. Just a great band, Accuser. From Germany, thrash, really get kind of heavy too. They really do get heavy. They've got a little bit of that sort of heaviness, the almost the death thrash sound. Something about Germany, that they just produce a little bit of that more heavier, more visceral sounding thrash. There's the No Remorse, you got the label there, Accuser. Who Dominates Who, which I guess is a little bit of a play on Who Made Who, the AC/DC thing. You got the man there fighting with the, it's like a man, I guess it's like a man god fighting with the machine god to work out who's gonna rule over everything. Who Pulls the Wire, great song. Who Dominates Who, so good. Called to the Bench is quite long. From memory, it's over 6 minutes, which is kind of long for a thrash song, especially around that time, but it really gets really heavy and crunchy and chunky. Really great song. Love this band. And just love this album. Such a good album. Such a really, really good album. Next, I've been listening to this band. So this is the sludge metal noise rock band that I promised. They are generally just a two-piece. I got into them kind of late. And then it was kind of lucky. It was one of those things that I started getting into them. And then not long after I got into them, then they announced a tour to Australia. And I'm talking about the band, I was just looking to see what year this was, and then I'm trying to think of the year that I saw them, because it was on this tour. Right, so this is 2014, so I'm going to guess and say it was 2014. I'm pretty sure it was 2014. I saw them live. I'm pretty sure then they were only a two-piece. Because the interesting thing about this band is they're a husband and wife band. The interesting thing about this band is that generally they don't have any bass live. So it's just the guy on the drums and then the girl up front with the guitar and doing the vocals. And the band is called Jucifer. I don't think it actually shows it on the front there. I'll show the spine. The band is called Jucifer. They're from Athens, Georgia. And sludge metal is probably their best description, but they do get into the drone. They do get into like the noise rock, a little bit of doom, even a little bit punky at times. When they speed it up a little bit, it does sound a little bit like punk, sort of a heavier punk. You can see there. Now, after the gig, I went over and had a chance to meet Amber Valentine, who's the guitarist and vocalist up front. She had a great southern Georgia accent, so I really enjoyed talking to her. I had a good long talk to her, and she was very nice of her, so she signed my CD copy there. The album is called District of Dystopia. So this is 2014. I'm pretty sure that they toured not long after this album. I'm pretty sure I made sure I bought this so that I might have even bought this at the merch table at the gig, now that I think of it, because I didn't take it with me to sign. I'm pretty sure I bought this at the merch table at the actual gig. Don't you love it when bands have, just at their merch table, not only do they have the shirts, that's great, But don't you love it when they have a large selection of their discography? Now, I understand if it's a big band and it's a big stadium, they can't do that. But when it's a smaller club-type gig, it's so good at their merch table when they have, you know, main parts of their discography, because it's really good because you know you're giving the money straight to the band, and then you can just walk away. You don't have to pay for postage, and you're getting, you know, you can fill a whole lot of holes in a discography of a band in you know, right there and then. So, yeah, Jucifer, great sludge metal band, really interesting live, very loud, like oppressively, wonderfully loud. Like you think of some of the really loud epic doom bands you might have heard, they're in that level where they just, you know, very fuzzy. The whole room feels like it's shaking because there's just so much fuzz and underbelly to the sound. But yeah, Jucifer, District of Dystopia, and yeah, my autographed copy. Whenever I can. I don't pay for meet and greets or VIPs or anything like that. But whenever I can, love to meet bands. If I can, I get them to sign things, whatever. But mainly, I don't really try to be overly. How can I say it? When I meet the bands, I like to just talk to them about their music and try and enjoy their company and all. It's hard because sometimes you're very, very big fans of these bands and you feel a little bit starstruck. But I always try to make sure you're as normal and as possible. They're just down to earth people, and they quite often just want to talk. What's the local scene like? What are things like here? You know, what are some of the bands I should check out? So I really enjoy it if I can and get to meet them. Next up. So, talked about a bit of blues rock, a bit of folk rock, and I was talking about Fleetwood Mac. Their fourth album. Fourth album, yeah. Kiln House. And this is that album. It's sort of in between. You know, you've got obviously the three main eras. You've got the Peter Green, then you've got the Bob Welsh era, and then you've got obviously the Buckingham Nicks era. And this is the one that sort of doesn't fall into any one of those main three, because this is the Danny Kerwin, Jeremy Spencer era. So this is where they were sharing the vocals. Christine McVie obviously has joined the band at this stage, but not obviously, I don't think it was as official as such. I'm pretty sure she did the backing. Well, I know she did the backing vocals on this, and also she did the artwork on this. She did this absolutely wonderful artwork. So this is 1970. This album, from memory. I love Fleetwood Mac a lot. You know, I'm not the world's biggest fan of Fleetwood Mac. Not to say that I don't love them a lot. I do, and I love all the eras. Probably nothing. Tango in the Night gets, the material of Tango in the Night gets overplayed, you know, and a lot of the Stevie Nicks, Lindsey Buckingham era stuff gets a little bit overplayed. But I love all the eras, and I love them a lot, but I wouldn't say I'm the expert on them. You know, I don't know all the nitty gritty and all the different things. I know the main stuff about them, but, you know, there's obviously people out there in the VC that know way more about them than me. There's that lovely artwork. Yeah, so Christine McVie did all the artwork for this, and it's really nice because really fits the music. When you're playing the record and you're listening to the music and you're just sort of exploring the artwork and looking around and everything, it just fits. It really fits. Very folky album. Blues rock, so, you know, it's still got the Peter Green sort of blues, but definitely quite folky. Yeah. So there we go there. Nice label view. So yeah, Fleetwood Mac. Kiln House. Absolutely great record. Yeah, really, I wouldn't see, I almost said soft and easy, and that's kind of not quite right, but it certainly is a very relaxing record to listen to, that's for sure. It's in there with you sort of, if you feel like listening to some jazz that's going to relax you and soothe you and all, that's another album that's really good for that. It's not to say that it doesn't rock at times, it does, but it is, yeah, it's another one of those albums where, you know, you feel like you can almost sit under a tree, under a shady tree in a summer's day and, you know, just sort of chill out and listen. It's got that sort of feel to it, and yeah, great album. Now the last one I've been listening to, I know this gets shown a little bit in the VC, but maybe not much. And the thing is about this band, I know they were reasonably big in the United States, but you know, I was listening to music. I was very little when they were just coming out and getting big, but I don't really remember them being that big in Australia. It was a band that I really didn't. I'd heard their big song before, and a couple of other big songs off other albums, but I didn't really know about them until quite a bit later on in the 80s, really, when a couple of people had cassettes and were playing them. They weren't ever played much in my house, and I didn't really see them much on the TV. So, but I know they were pretty big in America, and I know they could have been even bigger. You know, for a little while there, they were pretty big. And I'm talking about the band Angel. And this is their debut, of course. I'm sure you all know it pretty well. 1975. This is an original press. This is on Casablanca. There's the Casablanca label. Sorry about the little light there, glare. I'll make sure you can see it outside of the light glare. So there's the Casablanca label. 1975. Brilliant album. It's got a little bit of ring wear on the cover. I've had this for a little while. I can't remember how long I've had this. Yeah, a good decent while. Little ring wear on the cover, but it plays beautifully. And you know, look, an album that's an original press, and that's the only real trouble you've got. I think you're pretty happy. Tower, obviously, you know, the big song. I really love Rock and Rollers on this album. I absolutely love Rock and Rollers. Of course, you've got, I mean, look at that lineup. Frank Domino, Punky Meadows, Greg Giuffria, Mickey Jones, and Barry Brandt. You know, what a lineup. What an absolute lineup. There we go. So Angel, 1975. For those of you who don't know Angel, and there's, you know, there's probably quite a lot. As I say, they weren't very big in us. Well, I shouldn't say they weren't very big. Maybe I was a little bit too young to realise how big they were. All I'm saying is when I was seeing a lot of other bands that stuck in my memory in the late 70s and my early childhood, this one never seemed to, and I don't remember seeing them so much here. So that's not to say they weren't, but it doesn't seem to have stood out as much. So, but Angel are a hard rock band, but they do have the big power ballads. To say they're AOR, well, maybe, I guess, but they certainly do rock out. They have great big guitar solos. Are they metal? At a real, look, for 1975, I guess you could call them melodic metal. You know, there was a lot of other bands around at that time that were almost called metal or close enough, that were probably every bit as either soft or they were probably as heavy as them. But hard rock's a pretty safe place to call it. Love this album. I play it a lot. It's really, really, really good. So, there we go. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. That's just some things I've been listening to. I've been listening to a little bit of hip-hop again as well. I was going to include that in this video, but I thought, no, that'll make it just a little bit too long. I've got a lot of things in the mail. I didn't talk about the new releases in this video. I'll probably make a video in the next couple of days, and I'll talk about the new releases. I haven't got any to show yet, I'm sorry, but I can certainly talk about them and list them in the description, so at least then you can check them out. So please, if you can, check out the channels that I've given a shout out to at the start of the video, and I will put the links of those channels in the description. And for those in Perth, let's start getting ready and looking forward to Slayfest on the 27th of March. Such a big lineup. It's been a long time, hasn't it, till we've seen big festivals. Although there was Perth Rocks Festival last week, which unfortunately I couldn't make it to. But that was a bit of a mix of all sorts of music. This is all metal. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you've seen some things that you didn't quite know of, or they've jogged your memory, or made you feel like you want to pull them out of the rack, or highlighted some bands you may not have heard of before or thought about. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll catch you all soon.